Mark, good to see you. Today we're talking about the top 5 financial planning mistakes that you really need to avoid. According to bankrate.com, nearly 3/4 of US adults report at least one financial regret. So again, today we're going to break down the top 5 planning mistakes because you've been doing this a while. You've seen a lot. Number 1 is not having a grip on your retirement. GRIP is an acronym. What does it stand for?
Yeah, so we like to say GRIP is Guaranteed Retirement Income Plan.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't mean all the assets have to be guaranteed, but really, if you think about it, I'm going from not working, so I was relying on a paycheck from someone typically that was paying me every 2 weeks, and it was reliable. It was steady stream of income. I could count on it. Now I have to pull a paycheck from all of these assets that I've saved. And for most people, those are invested in things at risk. They go up and down. So really what we need to do is compartmentalize this income plan where we've created income that is guaranteed so that we can rely on it just like we were when we were working. And that's going to really de-stress our lives because we've got that reliability. So we can create our own private pension. How do we combine that with maybe other pensions you may have? But most people anymore don't have a pension. They're just going to have Social Security,
Mhm.
which, we know that's going to have some problems down the road. And we don't
Right.
know exactly what the effects of that is going to be. So we really have to look out for us and really bring in the right tools to create that guaranteed retirement income plan.
Mhm. Next would be taking inappropriate risk. Either too much risk or too little can derail your financial plan.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, if you're 3 to 5 years from retirement, you really have to be aware of this because
Right.
a lot of people are taking on way too much risk. And if they retire and the market goes down, 20%, or we go into a recession, and now they're trying to get a paycheck based on what they thought was $1 million account or $2 million account, whatever it was, and it's now 20 or 30% below that, they're going to have some real problems. And then
Mhm.
they could say, well, maybe I'll just go back to work. But again, in a recession, nobody's hiring. So we have to build in the contingencies to, first and foremost, look at our current portfolio and do a risk analysis and understand how much risk we're really taking. And then ultimately understand how much risk we need to take. Yes, we need growth to beat inflation, the silent killer. But ultimately, yeah, we've got to secure a part of this and de-risk that portfolio. So
Mhm.
we've got that income stream that can increase over time for the rest of our life. Because
Mhm.
again, we have to look at and say, wait a minute, we've also got longevity risks.
Right.
Obviously, living longer is good as long as we're healthy. But again, we've got to build in that contingency to make those assets last while we're drawing it out.
Mhm. Right. Mistake number 3 is a gross planning mistake, focusing too much on your gross savings, i.e., saving too much in those tax deferred accounts.
Yeah, so a lot of people will look at their 401k and they go, "Oh, I've got $1 million in my
Right.
401k," and you have to realize it's not all yours. You have a mortgage on that account, and again, depending on what the mortgage amount is, will depend on when you take it out and what the tax rate is. Now, we've got a 4-year reprieve, which is awesome to do some tax planning now, because a lot of people are going, "Hey, should I be doing Roth conversions or moving money to that tax-free bucket?" Paying taxes now while taxes are on sale. I think everybody should be looking at this. I'm not saying it's right for everyone, but let's look down the road 10 years, 15 years from now with the deficits the way they are. We can't keep tax rates this low because we can't keep running these deficits up. So ultimately, if we're in retirement, we have more tax-free income, it's all net spendable cash flow. Because
Mhm.
if we're in a zero tax bracket with that money, zero times zero, or zero times 30%, or if they double taxes, is still zero.
Right.
So
Right.
that's going to be a huge benefit to be able to look at that. But again, we have to do it in a thoughtful way.
Mhm.
In, like we like to talk about it, creating a tax roadmap to get from tax deferred to tax free.
Mhm. Right. All right. Mistake number 4 is not having a plan for long-term care, which can be very destructive to your retirement because 7 out of 10 people will need long-term care at some point. And when we take a look at the costs of long-term care, this is according to the 2024 Genworth cost of care study, projected out like 20 years, Mark, it can cost upwards of $211,000. That's incredible.
Yeah, and it's interesting because for a woman, the average stay in a nursing home is around 4 years. For a man, it's a little over 2 years. So if you think about that cost, yeah, you're right. It can be devastating to a retirement plan, especially later in life. And if we haven't saved enough or we haven't managed that portfolio effectively, we've got a real problem. And people have to realize that they just can't not solve this problem, because again, it's building it into the plan. What are you going to do? Are you going to self-insure? Are you going to look at moving that risk or part of that risk to an insurance company and buying a long-term care policy? What is that going to look like? But remember, it's a big threat to our retirement. That and taxes and inflation, I would submit to you, are the big three that we really need to look at.
Mm-hmm. And then last, not optimizing Social Security. Only 4% of people claim Social Security at the most financially optimal time. The remaining 96% are missing out on what comes out to $111,000 per household.
Yeah, and this is based on the Social Security statistics of average life expectancies, and many people are living way beyond that. So obviously, a lot of people go, "Well, I'm really worried about Social Security and the state of it," and we should be. There's nothing we can do about it. We can vote, but we know that Social Security is going to have some problems. But we have to remember it's an entitlement. And the only time our firm would ever recommend someone taking it early is if they knew they had a terminal condition or they
Right,
weren't in good health.
right.
Beyond that, we really have to run the cash flow of it and understand the optimal time to take it. And typically, that's going to be past full retirement age. Usually, for most people now, it's 67, maybe even delaying that until 70. The other issue is taxation of Social Security and how it affects our other income. So, preparing all of that is critical. Not only the amount of cash flow that we're going to get over a lifetime as a household, but also the taxation of that and how Social Security is going to potentially increase the taxation on the other income that we have. So it's
Right.
really about positioning income and when do we take it and when do we not take it.
Hmm. Hmm. It's clear talking this through with you, Mark, that all of these pieces fit together as part of a puzzle, which is why everybody's financial plan is going to be unique to them. But if somebody, heard this conversation, Mark, and is recognizing that they might be making one or two of these mistakes and want to talk them through with you, what's the best way to reach you?
Yeah, so pick up the phone, give us a call. We can have a simple conversation about this. Usually it evolves into something more because everybody has lots of questions about this. But
Hmm.
call us at 303-681-0113. Either myself or anybody on our team will be glad to take that call. We can set up an in-person appointment, a Zoom call, whatever you would prefer. The other way is you can go to our website, mcgregorwealth.com, and we have a calendar that you can link your schedule to schedule
Hmm.
a simple phone call, Zoom call, or an in-person appointment on that platform as well.
Great. Mark, thank you.
All right, thank you, Aaron.